Welcome back. Up next in today's fight for positioning in Group C is another David and Goliath clash between China's Edward Gaming and Europe's H2K. Although it might not be so David and Goliath after the performances that EDG has been putting up today. Now let's remember that this is a necessary game for H2K to win if they want to force a tiebreaker in order to go for that second seed out of groups. All this being said, how do they do it? Yamato, I want to start with you.
It's like H2K have shown that they have a very intelligent draft. I think Ryu has played wonderfully this tournament, especially against SKT, put a lot of pressure on them. And also, like, Odoamne has stepped up big time. And thinking of the other side, EDG have shown a lot of weakness. And I'm going to let you, as the LPL expert, just jump in on that.
Yeah, so I want to jump in on H2K quickly first because of the way they lost last game versus how EDG's been losing. H2K gave up first blood. They had to burn teleport, then it snowballed into the bottom lane. That is much easier to put out of your mind, like it's a freak level 1, it's not going to happen again, as opposed to losing early game versus Bangkok Titans. Like, that is something that will stick with you through a couple of games, and EDG now have a lot of pressure on them to get their pick ban right, which they haven't been able to do, and to shore up their early game, because that's looked disastrous so far.
Yeah, Tabe, talk to me about the mentality of a team and a player coming off of a loss, such as H2K did, versus, EDG, although they did beat Bangkok Titans, it was not an easy win and they expected to. How do you as a player get into the right mindset in order to come into a brand new game with the mentality of winning?
I think the mentality of EDG's player is pretty good already because they have seen H2K's play just now and they have won against Bangkok Titans. Although it is they should be winning, but the thing is they are turning it back because they have their opponents with 6K economic lead. The thing I want to say is EDG's top lane AJ is doing good using Echo against Darius. So I think if this game, because we can see that EDG's BP, they are always like to have Darius on their opponent's team. Yeah. I think it would be a pretty good point for EDG for using Echo as a top laner against Darius. But for more information, I don't think it is a counter pick. But I think Echo, it is like something like macro play. What do you mean macro play? I don't kill you on lane, but I do better in team fights.
Yeah, basically scale into the game. Like, I want to also touch on the H2K, what I want them to do coming into this game. I want them to put Yarnan on an AD carry that complements Ryu and Odoamne in the shape of Sivir, and I think they will increase their odds because Yarnan has not have like proper performances in this tournament.
All right, real quickly before we get in the game, I want to go down the line, get your predictions. Tabe, I'm going to start with you.
I would say EDG. Why? Because at first, just now, I tell all of you that I think EDG's bot lane will simply crush their bot lane.
Simple enough. Spawn.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I think EDG this time will be able to pull it through. I think especially that bottom lane matchup. I think that Deft is just class when it comes to team fighting.
I feel the same. EDG, they have just better individual players. I feel like they're lacking in the pick and ban, lacking in the macro play, but I don't think it will matter in this matchup.
All right, well, the odds are stacked against H2K, at least on the analyst desk. We'll see what they can do to prove us all wrong. There's only one way to know for sure, though, how this will end up. So let's head inside Ladakh Pullman for picks and bans.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks to the guys at the desk, and we are about to get started with EDG versus H2K, and this game has a lot of meaning, obviously, with H2K. If they can beat EDG, they'll tie them up. They'll be 3-3 each in the group, and we'll have a tiebreaker. EDG have looked very shaky in their first 2 games. They're 1-1 overall. They need to win this one if they want to save that second place spot.
They do get a bit of a do-over, though, in that, so they're not quite as on the ropes as H2K is.
Even if H2K wins, they get to play EDG again in a tiebreaker. And it's been a bit of a strange day because if we think about the pedigree of these teams coming into Worlds, EDG would be an overwhelming favorite. But if you removed all of that and just looked at today's games, you'd think H2K would actually be a pretty big favorite in this match.
It's so true, and as we go into picks and bans between EDG and H2K, you really do have to wonder who's going to come out on top. It's much, much closer now than we thought it would be, even at the start of the day today. Thresh and Gangplank, the first 2 bans. There's a Darius ban. Interesting.
Not willing to first pick at this time for Amazing Day, something they had done frequently so far in groups.
Yeah, the first 3 games EDG played last week, they decided to take that Darius. And I think the TF ban is super smart after that last game.
Yeah.
Ryu played it extremely well. You don't want him getting it as a last pick on the red side. Certainly H2K, maybe they have a plan here. Maybe they wanted to bait out that ban.
I know, it's interesting because Ryu looked so strong on the Twisted Fate, and we were wondering whether or not H2K would hide a lot of things against SKT, just kind of use it as a throwaway game, because they know that no matter what, they'll still have to beat EDG to make it out of group. But the Twisted Fate gets banned. We'll see what H2K ends up getting, because that's opened up a ban slot.
Well, the Thresh ban against Kasing as well, too. I mean, EDG got a lot of scouting information. There's a Rek'Sai ban in the end.
Lulu is open.
It is indeed. With Darius out of the way, though, it's not like H2K would pick up. I think EDG would be pretty smart to grab that Lulu.
I think so too. Pawn has had some really strong performances on Lulu. And it also can help to snowball what EDG's strength looks to be heading into this game, which would be the bottom lane of Deft and Mako.
Pretty strong duo for H2K if they lock it in.
But
Lista Elise.
they give away the Lulu, but then you get a little bit of a bully lane here for H2K to kind of balance out perhaps the individual strength of EDG's bottom lane, just going ahead and taking that Kalista right away. And Rhea must have something in store for this Lulu in the mid lane.
I think so. We'll see where it ends up going. Gragas, a pretty possible pick, I would say, for EDG. But who else will they take on this rotation? Do you just go ahead and grab your AD carry?
I think the
Hide as
Jinx
much
is
as you
coming.
can.
I think the Jinx is coming in this game, just because you have the Lulu. Deft is an extraordinary Jinx player. If you take the Gragas, you're already saying we've got so much disengage, and you could definitely build a composition around that here.
And EDG also wants to have some late game insurance here against H2K because they already have fallen behind with some pretty suspect early games. So I'd expect EDG to take a pretty late scaling composition as well.
There it is.
Jinx and Gragas disengage and carry.
Yep, makes sense. So 2 more picks over to H2K. And will we see just a lot of hard engage come in? The Annie would certainly fit the bill there. But what else can they bring?
I think you definitely take the Annie here against the Jinx. It'll help you get that instant stun and lock down the Jinx in some of these team fights. Also just a huge kill threat in the lane, one of the most dangerous duo lanes in League of Legends.
Well, we were wondering, too, the first time we saw this Annie Kalista pick, would they actually just throw Annie in, or would they let her flash Timbers and pull her out so maybe she could get another spell rotation? But no, they just chucked the Annie right in there.
Yeah, it's also nice if the Annie lands, she gets knocked back to her max attack range, so it's still a little bit of safety, and then can stun after and just kind of walk away.
True.
H2K, I think they're going to be waiting for their last pick to pick the mid laner, even though it's so hard to find a counter pick against what is most likely a mid lane Lulu. The thing is, right now, the Lulu could still possibly flex top lane, which, even though it's not really an amazing day champion, and again, they go for the Fiora. This is what they did last time against EDG.
Yeah, Odo Omne going to be having that Fiora up in the top lane. The Annie locked in as well, too. And 2 more picks, 2 final picks over to EDG.
And I really liked the Fiora in the last draft. I really liked H2K's draft against what EDG had. Now, they tried to play...
Oh, boy.
Could be the Tom Kedge definitely coming in here, but EDG tried to play with a very low wave clear composition. Kalista, Darius, Kassadin, and I thought H2K had a good draft to punish it. One of the big problems was honestly Lulex dying 8 times in the game. I think the draft, on paper, I liked H2K's draft better. It included the Fiora. Go ahead and get that split push. If you want to take down Amazing J, who's been the weak link of EDG, just punish him and then split push your way out of that situation in the late game. And Odo Omne, I thought, has had some pretty decent Fiora performances.
He has. He's had some pretty decent performances in total, even against Marin, who's been dominating pretty much everyone. Odo Omne's been sticking close with him throughout.
Oh, is it time?
This is such a Jinx team composition right now. The Tom Kench, in case he gets focused, and a Lulu. If the Tom Kench spits him out and there's still danger to come upon them, it means EDG's comp is actually fairly low damage outside of the Jinx, however, which makes the cohesion a pretty strong factor here.
Right, they really have to be careful because while it is easy to keep the Jinx alive, if the Jinx dies, it just all comes apart for EDG.
You have basically no damage if Jinx dies on this team.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like.
Especially since Malphite's not going to be building an Abyssal here up against the Fiora, so you don't even have that option necessarily.
And in days of past, when you picked Fiora before the rework, she couldn't do anything against Malphite. But now, I actually think this is a heavily advantaged matchup in lane for the Fiora. Ottawamne can use Riposte on pretty much any meaningful damage that Malphite comes out with, even the ultimate. I've seen a couple Fiora Malphite games where Fiora gets over 100 CS ahead of the Malphite if they get some free time in the laning phase. I still like this draft from H2K.
Orianna coming in as the last pick here. Just a good lane matchup up against the Lulu, generally speaking. So trying to control Pawn in the laning phase, Ryu. And Pawn both selecting that teleport now. Could be a little bit wild here early, but H2K, if they get ahead, EDG doesn't have an answer to a split-pushing Fiora in this game. That is a big concern for them. H2K has an advantage in a 1-3-1 as well with the Orianna compared to the Lulu, so...
I also really love Orianna in protection-based compositions on the opponent's side because the Shockwave gets so much AoE damage and can be so disruptive to the overall flow of things. You can't shield everyone at once if they're staying close together. And Tahm Kench, Lulu, and Jinx are very likely to be fairly grouped up in a lot of these team fights.
Yeah, true enough. And if Tahm Kench doesn't get Jinx inside him as fast as he can, that could be a very dead AD carry very fast. So the coaches will shake hands, and we are about to move into the game. H2K, I think, with a great chance here against EDG, but now the question is, you know, will EDG finally be able to sort of counter those demons that have plagued them today, have a convincing win for once in their second week here?
I think this says a lot about EDG's mentality. They're putting all the eggs in the Deft basket right now. Amazing J hasn't showed up this tournament. Just put him on something where he has to press R and initiate for Deft.
He's been pretty much just J this time around.
Yeah, just J.
Only J. Not the cool J from Men in Black, just a regular letter J.
I would just say lackluster J, actually. I would actually demote him below J.
Below average J. Oh. Well, we'll see if he can regain his amazingness. That's a word now. I invented it. As we see EDG step out onto Summoner's Rift against H2K. These teams, possibly their last games in groups.
Yeah, and what I find so funny is even though this group stage has been so vastly different than expectations, EDG's path has been almost identical. Last year, they were placed in a group with the dominant Korean team, lost to them both games, then lost to the underdog, went 3-3, and had to play a tiebreaker. It could be almost exactly the same situation here if they drop a game to H2K, because they would both be 3-3 in the group. EDG probably getting a few flashbacks.
I think so. A lot of fans as well. And the Chinese scene fans, the LPL fans, have had a lot of disappointment to deal with in Worlds so far. EDG getting out of this group would be pretty nice for them.
Yeah, funnily enough, ClearLove is the only remaining member from that EDG team that had the 3-3 group last year, but the brand is the same.
Before the great Korean exodus.
Yeah.
So Deft, a lot riding on this guy's shoulders this game, as we've already said, and Mako as well too. I mean, he's really got to go all out in terms of keeping this Jinx safe, keeping him away from the shockwaves, keeping everybody off of his AD carry.
Let's see, Kasing and Hjarnan here. Looks like calling the lane swap as they move up. They are going to take a peek in at the Gromp. This is dangerous.
Can they sneak through? They
believe
actually
they can.
haven't been detected by vision here, and they're sending both. This could be a really high value disruption if they get there quickly.
Stun is up.
Gotta go quick.
Stun is up. They see the ward come in. Deft and Mako trying to come out the other side here. The sun could land. It will land on Mako. Decent amount of damage, and they don't get the Gromp. So neither team really gets any XP out of the deal, or any XP lead, I would say, out of the deal.
Deft actually has a 1 minute advantage experience-wise and the faster shove. So even though H2K disrupted that, they basically only get the matched lanes out of this. EDG doesn't want to lane against this at all. They don't want to go up against bullies, so they're immediately swapping.
Wow, that's
rare.
bold.
They're falling so far behind on tempo for this play.
Well, this is a risk that they're going to take, right? Because they now say we don't want to lane against this Annie Callista combo, so we're going to sacrifice a certain amount of farm in order to make that happen. And that may put the Jinx behind, but they're saying it's better to be a few minions behind than the possibility of that kill lane coming through or them getting zoned off the wave entirely. But we'll see how exactly H2K is going to react.
Oh, they're going to find Amazing J. Walked right through the turret there. Amazing J could take some damage, but they can't really do anything with the turret. Focusing Kasing. Kasing taking a lot of damage there too. Amazing J could just take him out perhaps. Kasing, they pop that summoner heal. Amazing J taking a lot of damage in response. There's the Rend. Not enough on either side. That was kind of a crazy engagement. Now H2K, they want to go for the big four-man dive here. Amazing J solo. Teleport comes in. No, it's canceled. And Amazing J could still be in trouble. Are they going to get first blood? Amazing J, they get Kasing, and they will get out fairly clean.
This is the way European teams and H2K lane swap. If you're going to be playing against this, you have to be able to send defense for your top laner. This is the second game in a row, well, with the Bangkok Titans game in between, that Amazing J has just been basically left for dead with poor support from his team. Yes, he is dying in these turret situations, but anyone would die in these turret situations. H2K get the very important first blood.
Yes, they do. And not only that, but credit to H2K here, because this was a really weird lane swap situation. It was a delayed lane swap, right? But they didn't miss a beat. They just adjusted on the fly very well in their comms to just moving up into that top side and playing as if really Deft and Mako had never even been in that lane.
Well, yeah. And in no sense was it a standard lane swap because Lulex went up there before level 3, so he didn't have the really OP Elise take turret aggro and repel after the kill to drop it. It was level 2 Elise that ended up ganking, and they even tried to move down early to preempt Amazing J getting under the turret, and then adapted mid-dive to still be able to continue despite all the damage Kasing took.
Well, they had to use that summoner heal. Now Pawn a little bit of trouble, takes a lot of damage from Ryu. To be able to get out, not needing to burn that flash just yet, but the pressure really being put on by H2K. Looks like the first turret in the game will go to EDG, probably, though. It's going to be pretty close, I think.
Yeah, both top laners are going to be left with the gold, however, so
Yeah.
each team. But again, because of this issue with Amazing J and the fact that he did get dove early on, you kind of want to give the money to Jinx in that situation, especially to power up that late game.
I'm really confused by the way EDG is playing this because they are sending mixed messages as to what their overall goals and win conditions are, which makes me worried that they're not properly identifying what they need to do to win this game.
Wow.
Deft should have been given full turret experience, in my opinion, in that matchup because they're already putting him at a disadvantage when he initially swapped.
Especially because he's had to go back and get an Avarice Blade right now compared to the Vamp Scepter on Callista. And remember, they chose to dodge this lane.
Pawn takes a ton of damage.
So they chose to dodge this lane, and now they've put themselves in a prolonged power trough. And if they get into that anti-Callista lane again with an Elise ganking, it's going to be very difficult.
We saw the fan vote look pretty much dead even, 49% to 51%. And who in the world would have expected that, you know, even before today, perhaps?
Yeah, EDG has not opened up this game well. The one thing that they do have, though, is they've been successfully able to get Deft not up against opposition. He hasn't fallen far behind in CS, and he will be taking that Avarice Blade. EDG is very clearly going for a late-game strategy here, or at least a mid to late-game strategy. Once Deft can complete 1 to 2 major items, and Pawn can get some powerful shields, but they have to be able to withstand until that point.
Pawn flashes out that shockwave. Ryu trades the ultimate for the summoner's spell.
Yeah, this should be a decently easy dragon for H2K if they want to, especially unless EDG wants to continue this turret push, because they are slightly ahead on this and Jinx takes turrets fairly quickly. Smart call by EDG to move for the second turret. That blocks the dragon.
Yeah, just keeping clear love in the lane right now, so no mysteries here for H2K, but they may just respond to walking through the mid lane and maybe be a little bit delayed on this response.
Yeah, this one seems a little bit slow. And this push is going to take up this turret very quickly if H2K allows it, and it kind of looks like they are.
Well, they've got very good wards in the enemy jungle, too. This was set up very nicely by EDG. But Kasing coming around, they're going to TP in. They may go for a play right here.
Well, he could land a stun. Still level 4, so no Tibbers, but that W, of course, is AoE, but no chance to engage there.
I think the play is just make up for lost time, because H2K was really behind on that play of the second turret pushing in side lanes. The fact that they were able to defend it, I think, saves that turret for a really long time.
Problem is with that play is sure they denied the dragon, but now they have easy farm for Fiora back next to the tier 2, and the freeze was already set up on the bottom side. The wave is pushing towards H2K, so there's a big farm denial they sort of gave themselves right here, but it's, I think, a worthy price to pay for the not losing the dragon.
And Auto Omni is 3/4 of a level above Amazing J as far as experience goes. I think Fiora's already a beneficial matchup against the Malphite, and yeah, now Amazing J is already, he's getting some decent ward coverage to try and stay safe, but once Fiora hits level 6, which will be before Amazing J, there's actually kill threat 1v1.
Well, Pawn no flash here. Can they make a play? Pawn getting slowed down a little bit, going to whimsy himself to get away, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to get quite close enough to make that gank.
I don't know why they're focusing on this mid lane. If we take a look right now, there's just one ward in the river up in the top side where Amazing J is. I think that you go ahead and you use the Elise and the Annie to continually kill the Malphite and keep him down right now. Pawn, it's just too easy. Sure, his flash is down, but he has Whimsy, he has a lot of tools, and he's playing pretty defensively in the lane.
Well, yeah, Malphite's still level 4. It looks like Lulex is going to be spotted by this ward, and Amazing J immediately pulling back. Yeah, wants to be a bit more safe there.
Look at the CS lead that's developed. Remember, when Odo Omne TP'd to that top lane turret, they were basically even. And now it's turned into a 13-36 lead.
It's because Odo Omne is so good in that matchup. I think that's one of the reasons that H2K is throwing so many ganks towards the mid lane, is because they don't really know what else to do. They've already gotten Odo Omne really far ahead, and EDG is walking around with a fortress of wards around Deft, so he's not actually reachable. If anything, I think instead of ganking mid lane, they should actually be taking the Dragon to start that eventual timer, since EDG is very clearly trying to stall for the late game.
Well, you'd think they could have taken that Dragon a while ago now. Just giving a lot of time to it, I guess.
Yeah, especially you look at these CS differentials.
He'll get his CS here too.
Yeah, he'll get some CS here. But they're playing so defensively, you have to make a play right here. Either you have to commit to dealing with the Malphite, or you need to do something more cross-map. Sure, you don't have TP, but Odo Omne has no reason to be in the top side right now. And they're giving up their blue for free.
Well, they're going to get spotted, but it's a little bit too late. Blue buff going to go over to Pawn. Meanwhile, fight in the top lane. Amazing J slowed down a little bit. Is Odo Omne going to go all in on this? Nope, too close to the turret.
Yeah, I think specifically they just split the map at not a very advantageous time. They went back for the Odo Omne play. They're trying to push in Amazing J, but they let him catch the minion wave, and it's a slight misstep here from H2K, I have to say.
If you're going to make this play
has to be
with
a minute
Annie and Elise, you're just a day late and $1 short. And EDG basically just gets a free Dragon right there. I mean, H2K starting this off strong, and I really like the position they were in, but they had some pretty massive misplays on the map right now, and EDG right back in it.
Well, it's like you said. I mean, it looks like they just kind of got a little bit lost. They had this lead, and then they just didn't know what to do with it. And EDG knew exactly what to do from their position. They've come back from much bigger deficits today already.
EDG has been swapping Deft back and forth and back again to keep him away from the Kalista Annie. And that part of their game has only been mildly successful. He's still down 12 CS, but at the very least, he picked up the early Avarice Blade and has already generated 190 gold from that aspect. But they're still going to have to be able to play this game of surviving and reswapping for a pretty long time before they're able to take advantage of it.
Well, as it stands right now, due to the Avarice Blade, he's only down about 50 gold. So it's not actually that big of a difference compared to what the CS says.
Yeah, with no kills or assists, kind of swinging things with that Avarice Blade.
Even
Not
turrets,
surprising.
too, so.
Yeah, that too. Well, Pawn, speaking of turrets, able to hold his in the mid lane.
Yeah.
For a little while at least.
There have been so many lane swaps from Deft here. And if H2K wants to capitalize on this, they either need to attack the lane swap or successfully attack the mid lane. But Pawn has been playing very defensively, 20 CS deficit, thanks to all that gank damage that he's been taking from H2K. And now they're again ahead on the play on these turrets. Yarnin was slow pushing that other side.
They're going to get the wards in too.
Well, they're going to get the turret perhaps. H2K, a lot of people from each team moving up there. Turret will fall to EDG though.
EDG has been playing this really well. So every time they push up to that tier 2, you see Mako break off, get the wards in so they can map any kind of play that H2K wants to make, and they're going to get another turret that puts them 3-2, and that pretty much ties up the gold game.
Yeah, even though H2K has had a strong early game, where they've been specifically weak is their synergy between Lulex and Kasing. And we're seeing the synergy between Mako and Clearlove shine because they're getting their wards up much sooner, and their movements have been much more purposed.
Deft, Timbers comes down, gets picked up.
What are you going to do?
By Mako. Well, that play was Mako break, I guess you can say, but came out of for H2K.
It was actually both, really.
A little bit. To get that pink ward as well, too. Lulex, Cocoon. Get a little bit of damage onto Tom Kench. Silly spider. Tom Kench doesn't take damage.
Yeah, he's just going to regen it back up. He
Yep.
didn't
He's a vicious fish,
the
man.
gray health. 5 people on H2K in the mid lane here. They're kind of fed up with this lane swapping, so they still have to. They can still take advantage of Death's power drop, but they have to be able to keep a minion wave in front of this turret long enough to siege, and they just don't have the ability there because they have to respect the Malphite engage.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're H2K, you're never really going to be able to siege. Malphite is that ultimate siege breaker style of champion. Your strength was in the split push. Your strength was in an incredible CS lead on Odoamne, and H2K, they just haven't played well around who they needed to get farm on, where as EDG, it's just been about depth this entire game. They're very clear on what they want to do.
And it's really hard to tell with so much happening within this game, but when watching VODs about EDG, when they were at their best, they controlled Fog of War so incredibly well, being able to always recall from the right positions and making sure the enemy didn't know where they were rotating next. And that's really all that EDG has been doing. Both Jinx and Tahm Kench, if they have to lane up against Kalista and Annie, as well as Malphite versus Fiora, are losing lanes. Yet because they've timed their recalls, gotten the deep wards, and showed up in lanes in the right time, they're winning the turret game with losing side lanes, which is impressive for their overall control.
Yeah. You've almost got sort of a reverse Kalista on the other side, too, in terms of keeping that depth safe. As long as he sticks next to Tahm Kench, he can just be protected in Tahm Kench's loving mouth.
Need to see Kalista and Tahm Kench on the same team at one point. Just
I think so.
eat each other constantly.
How does it even work? Hit Fate's call, can you like eat them on the way back? And then what
And then
happens?
like throw yourself and then spit them out afterwards.
It's like a bag of holding put into another bag of holding. Like, the universe just ends at that point.
I actually have no idea how those interactions would work.
I'm
I
kind
want
of
to know
scared to
that.
see it now. I don't know if I want to know.
I should know that. We need a support main.
I don't want time and space. Hey, what? Hey, come on. You didn't
a
say you needed
professional support
Oh,
main.
okay, all right, all right. I'm not one of those.
I'm sorry, Dylan.
Well, neither is
You're
Crepo
forgiven.
anymore, so we're out of luck.
An ex-professional support main.
It's true.
This game, though, still pretty close for H2K. They haven't capitalized fully, but they still have Ryu farming up pretty substantially. He's not able to get a huge amount of burst from his Shockwave at this point, still level 10, but once he starts getting level 11, starts getting needlessly large rod in there, it's still going to be a massive Shockwave threat in fights.
Upon able to clear out that ward, and H2K a little bit worried about their mid lane turret right now, and also worried about this next dragon. Remember, EDG did manage to get the first one, despite H2K with a lot of opportunities. Can they equalize?
That's going to be the big question, and I really think they should have had that first dragon, but couldn't quite pull it off, and now they're aiming at number 2, but it will be coming in relatively late, so having 5 dragons is something that's going to be hard for them to get unless this goes into the very, very, very late game.
I'm really curious to see if EDG tries to fight this one. They have some big level disadvantages in their side lanes. Depth just hit 9, Yarn is 10, Amazing J's only level 8.
Here we go.
It would be a huge fight win if they could get it, but I just don't think they've hit the item thresholds in order to contest. You have the Hydra and the Blade of the Ruin King completed for H2K, whereas EDG is components on Amazing J and components on Deft. It would be a huge power play for H2K to take a dragon fight here if EDG wants to contest.
Just keeping the mid wave pushed up for now. Dragon has spawned, but they haven't looked to start it yet. They've swept out the wards on the high ground in the river, so you see right there, Kasing just waiting, looking for a Tibbers, but I think it'd be quite similar to his last one with Mako lurking around on Tahm Kench.
Yep. Meanwhile,
You have to
H2K
Tibbers the group.
Yeah, they do go for the dragon. They get it. That's going to be their first of the game. And so that's a bit of a relief for H2K that they were able to secure that, avoid that O2 dragon deficit.
One of the things that I really like about EDG is they're very smart in the way they play around Dragon. They're not afraid to give up Dragons if they know they're in a power drop. That's really one of the things that I enjoy watching most about this team is they have good communication when that can happen. Here we go.
Whoa, Amazing J comes in, doesn't get anyone with the ult though, has to back away. Wild Growth used immediately. There's a knockup on the clear left, saved by Mako. Deft doing a bit of damage, doesn't want to get too much closer though. That Shockwave still is off cooldown.
Do you like disengage? Well, boy, do I have 2 comps for you.
Well,
The repel.
Oh! Ouch.
Couple of missed ultimates there.
That was
Amazing J, unimpressive Shockwave.
the only shock with that one is that it didn't hit anybody.
Not many people on EDG can even dodge the Shockwave that well either. Sometimes you have these
missed.
poor Orianna compositions because it's against like a Lee Sin and you can just dodge around everything, but it's Lulu, Jinx, and Malphite, and Tahm Kench, who are all kind of dashless outside of the ultimate on Malphite. Poor shot there by Ryu.
Wish Tahm Kench could just eat projectiles as they come towards.
No.
That'd be sick.
No.
It
It'd
would
be
be
sick.
for the one person in the game. Everyone else would be miserable.
It would make him sick. It would also make him Kirby, so.
Oh, that's true. Why stop now? Why not get that crossover going?
Oh, man. Well, Another failed siege here. I just don't think that H2K is going to have success as a 5-man unit. That's not their ticket in this game. They need to get this split push actually rolling with Odoamne here.
Well, they may have the gold dead even, but they're still down a turret. The pressure's still on a little bit.
Yeah, this Tom Kench blocks so much of what H2K actually wants to do.
Yeah.
Because it also gives EDG a get-out-of-jail-free card in team fights. If for some reason Deft is out of position and they would need to dump shields on him, they can actually wait until after the Tom Kench has eaten him, taken him to a safe spot, then they can dump the shields on him. So really the only way H2K could get a big fight is if they can stun pretty much everyone. Like we ended up seeing in Origin's win over LGD at the early point of the week where Annie stunned like 4 people for a 4-man shockwave.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Tom Kench trying to come in from behind here. Ryu
got a flash.
just slow. Not bad. Gets caught by those flame choppers. Comes in. Timbers does work. Ryu throws a shockwave, but it's too late. Deft with the kill there. Kasing in a lot of trouble. Gets pulled back in by that Fate's Call, though. He's going to be just fine.
And now they're going to turn their sights to this mid lane, and there is no more wave clear for H2K, so EDG should have a pretty easy time busting down this turret. Again, Hjarnan, no Luden's Hurricane yet, so there's almost nothing they can do to stop this from going through.
Yep. Mid turret goes down, and now it's going to be a 4-2 turret lead for EDG. And H2K, they've got to be starting to sweat a little bit.
Yeah, because EDG is taking control. They now get their Infinity Edge onto Jinx. The power trough that EDG is in is very quickly being erased, and H2K wasn't able to get split push going thus far. There's a multitude of ways EDG can actually force team fights, and they haven't fallen far behind from the early game.
Let's check this one out again. Tom Kench comes in from behind, and Ryu just gets all the CC thrown on him.
Yeah, I love that they took Clear Love right there too, because Deft has the zap to zone in from the side. So don't go ahead and drop your AD carry too close to that turret, but he has a form of crowd control which gives Ryu enough pause for the Gragas to get into the fight and help secure that kill.
Yep. Mon just pushing up the lane a little bit. Still has his turret for the moment anyway. And so at what point does this pressure that EDG have turn into Baron pressure? It's got to be pretty soon.
Well, if you're EDG at literally any moment, the next team fight they get.
Yeah, especially if Deft is able to stay alive.
If they can win this next dragon fight.
I think most of it has to do with the team fight first and then a sneak, unless H2K completely gets lackadaisical with their vision control. It could also start if they can stop Odoamne from split pushing, which is a possibility. The deep wards, as far as H2K are concerned, are mostly non-existent, which makes their split push really hard to accomplish, which means their Baron vision gets much lower. So if the trends hold true from the past 5 minutes, I'd say a sub 30-minute Baron for EDG is not out of the question.
Certainly could be. Pawn partying in the mid lane. And this next dragon up in 1:10 about EDG. They can take it. They'll be pulling a lead in every category except for kills.
They're getting so much vision control right now that it's going to make the dragon much easier to take.
Yeah. Man, Amazing J is way down in CS, but you know, if the Fiora can't seem to split push, it doesn't really make a big difference, does it?
Yeah.
Well, they're not warding for Fiora to split push. There's literally no wards south of the river right now. So even though H2K, I think, had a very good draft, and they started out this game very strongly, they have really let this one slip through their fingers. EDG came out with a rather weak early game, a very punishable early game, and we've seen SK Telecom really just hammer them when they make mistakes like this. But EDG was able to sort of weasel their way back into this game with some just consistent lane swapping of the Jinx, and H2K simply picking the wrong places on the map to focus.
It seems like this is kind of the story of H2K's tournament, right? Is that they've been doing okay early on, a little bit in the mid, and then it just seems to consistently fall apart a little bit. And not by a lot. They just can't seem to make the exact right move at the exact right time. They can juggle 3 balls, 4 is a bit tough.
You got to do 2 in each hand if you're juggling 4 balls.
That's
you cannot
tough.
do a normal cascading pattern.
That's really hard. I can only do 3.
I can speak from experience. Really, you can juggle? We have Hawk and juggling.
I can
Wow.
juggle too.
Wow, we should just have a try juggling cast now. Need to make this happen.
That'd be quite difficult. I'm not
would
at
be
that
really-
level.
Even so, the vision control for EDG is decently strong around the Dragon here, and I think this is the type of fight they're willing to take. We mentioned the CS discrepancy from Amazing J. Not that important because he's still Malphite when it comes to team fights, unless H2K gets the split push going, which is what they're going for right now. Love the call by EDG to push up mid.
Yep, they're going right for that tier 2 turret mid lane. I mean, they do lose their tier 2 in bot, and Odoamne is going to continue pushing. EDG turning this one around. They might be able to catch somebody here. Lulex throws out the cocoon, doesn't connect. Garnet.
Okay, this could get apocalyptic.
Oh boy, here comes the Tom Kench. Comes in, is he close enough? Amazing J caught up a little bit. They're going to jump onto Yarnin right away here. Yarnin flashes away, doesn't get CC'd. Going to pull in his Annie, his support. Still gets taken out. Amazing J with the kill there. And Kasing in a lot of trouble as he gets back to the Baron. But the Baron's not going to help you, man. You got a flash, but you don't have it. No flash for you, you're dead. And there's a bot lane out of commission for H2K. Baron helping out a little bit, and perhaps that Baron damage is enough to keep EDG from pursuing this fight.
The Abyssal Voyages for Mako have been so on point, and they're really generating a lot of positive plays for EDG. That was a really extended back and forth play, and because of all the quick movements around the map, H2K did lose their coordination a little bit, and that's exactly when the Abyssal Voyage came in to give them the right start to that team fight.
I think H2K just had to pull the trigger earlier. You'll notice that Odoamne did not use teleport right there, and they allowed themselves to be carved up on the map as a result and get split. Meanwhile, the TP, so Odoamne comes in right here, but had he teleported more up towards the river, there could have been a play made, perhaps.
Yeah, Odoamne was already on the run from what he thought was an expected collapse, so kind of a disaster. Sharner would have been dead either way, it feels like. The tank lines were just in the right position for EDG, and, well, H2K doesn't actually have a tank line, so they need clean initiations. Getting engaged on is never good when you're running this squishy of a team.
That way. H2K in quite a bit of trouble now, despite the fact that the gold is still pretty even.
Yeah. That does actually remind me of a really critical point as far as what EDG has put together here. They have very strong disengage and a protect the Jinx composition, but these comps are even better when you can just kill frontline. Since no one on H2K is actually tanky enough to take even 5 or 6 hits from the Jinx. So once they speed Jinx up, the game will just be over if EDG gets even a little bit more momentum because H2K doesn't have proper tank lines.
Well, now we're going to see, can H2K use this teleport advantage to its fullest degree? Because that's what they've got going for them. They're still relatively even in gold, and Odoamne, by not using his TP in that last fight, is going to put some pressure down onto this bottom side, but the rest of his team has to be doing something else. Looks like they will be trying to clear out some vision in the mid lane and push forward, but there's a lot of EDG wards on that Baron.
Yeah, there's no dragon to try to take, so the Baron can be the focus. But EDG,
They're all
may
sitting
be
in
ready to spring a trap, yeah.
So there's plenty of knowledge to try and set up a trap.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult for Odoamne to get the safe split push because there's not enough disengage on H2K to stop the engage from EDG.
Guess we just start the Baron.
That burnt the teleport. So much for the TP advantage.
Yep.
And he canceled it too, so they can just go right back on and he has to walk. This is great for EDG.
Yeah, they're going to get a lot of damage in on that Baron, but can they finish it off? H2K coming in. They want to contest it. EDG backing off right away. They're going to take down the Rift Scuttler just for a little bit of extra vision as they move back to the mid lane. So H2K able to stop the Baron, at least for now anyway, but I don't think EDG is too bothered by that. They can keep waiting this one out.
Right, and they're going to get a GP advantage for at least a brief time, and that is going to force Fiora to group up, which is exactly what EDG wants. They want the 5v5. They want H2K to group, so just play a methodical game here. Wait for them to be in your pocket before you actually try and take a fight.
And Tom Kench's mouth pocket. Gross.
Wait till they're
wants to
in
be
the
in
Kench.
Gross but effective.
Yeah, it's true. Disgusting, but effective. We need like a Tom Kench skin that yells, "It's a trap," when he comes out of his ult or something. That'd be sick, man.
What we need is somebody with a really strong arm to be noodling. We were talking about this earlier, where noodling is what you do with a catfish. You like
True.
stick your arm into a hole in a swamp, and the
Right.
catfish latches onto your arm and you pull it out. It's basically one of the more dangerous kinds of fishing because you don't know what's going to be in the hole. Is it an alligator? Is it a water snake? Who
Also
knows?
one of the most manly ways to go fishing.
If you like to lose fingers to snapping turtles, sure. It is manly. So who would have an arm
Sure.
strong enough? Probably Tryndamere if he dropped his sword.
I think
Just noodles to the top catch.
I would pick Victor because he can just stick his third metal arm in there. He doesn't need to worry at all.
Just build a new one. He is the perfect
He's like, I've got spares at home. I can noodle all day. Taken out of context, that sentence. Yeah.
If you just tuned in right now,
We're talking about noodling. Wait, no, let us explain. It's a kind of fishing.
Also, I learned an alternative name is catfisting.
Well,
Blitzcrank can handle that one.
I'm sure that's not getting spammed in Twitch chat right now. I have complete confidence.
What I think is even more interesting, though, is Ottawamne split pushing bottom without teleport. Because it
That's a
puts them
brave
in a
move,
pretty
man.
difficult situation.
Yeah.
They don't have strong vision control over Baron, and if anyone gets picked off, it's a free Baron for EDG because it would take him so long to go up there. Amazing J has the teleport advantage in the bottom lane, and it makes H2K's push in the mid lane pretty difficult.
Yeah, I would say. They're not really doing much with it right now, though. Amazing J just trying to stop the split push. Do you think they should just go for Baron instead?
I think they definitely have that option if Amazing J wants to go ahead and TP up there. Question is, how fast can they actually take it? The answer is pretty fast. You see Deft right now not even bothering building Last Whisper. There's no armor, so who cares, really?
Specifically, the Bloodthirster is the survivability that they're really going to need. If no one can immediately get onto Deft and kill him, he will win the fight based on sustained damage capabilities. It does seem like EDG is still just playing this mostly slow. It is still very risky for them to go for a straight-up Baron against an Orianna and an Annie-Callista combo. I mean, maybe they actually set up a kill on Ottawamne here.
Maybe. I
He
mean,
needed
get
to block
slowed
that
there.
slow. He needed to block it.
Oh, Pawn coming in. They got the flash. Teleport back up now for Ottawamne. But he's lucky to get out with his life.
Well, they actually, EDG really waited that one out. I think they had a pretty good opportunity to make a play around that teleportless split push, but not going to make much of a difference. They did blow Ottawamne's flash on that, and this gave H2K time to regain vision control over Baron, considering how much EDG committed to the bottom side of the map right there.
H2K trying to find a fight here, and they're going to find Clearlove. Not pulling the trigger on that one, though. They're going to go for Mako. Mako pretty tanky, backs off. There's the shield. He's going to be just fine. Flame Choppers drop down. Yarnin goes in, gets some damage onto Def. Kosik trying to help out. They miss the stun. And now Clearlove back in with the re-engage. So much damage coming from EDG. Deft is getting excited, and all the fans of EDG are too. As Lulex and Ryu runs away, here comes the Kench, and he's going to get the slow onto
Nice
Ryu.
shot.
Can they catch him? Trying to get there a little bit too low health. One more hit, though. Could do it. Two more hits. Can he eat him? They're not going to need you. Ryu gonna go down. Another kill for Def. That is 4 for 0. A near flawless team fight for EDG.
That may be the clinching fight that moves EDG into the quarterfinals. They've been waiting for that setup for so long, and honestly, this game has been heavily about the catch. They didn't even need Amazing J's Malphite ultimate to pull that one off.
Yeah.
Unless it came back off cooldown during the chase. I'm pretty sure it didn't.
No, I don't think it did, but doesn't matter. Lulex down anyway. They've got a couple people still over at that Baron, so we have 31-minute Baron take for EDG. And it's been a bit of a sloppy game from both sides.
Early on, it was sloppy for EDG, I would say, but I would say the last 15 minutes have been quite clean. When they fully committed to getting to the late game, I think EDG has played this quite well. And it's okay for Tahm Kench to face check things because he is Tahm Kench. Look at the shielding he was able to get and then disagree with the flash in because Sing, such a critical miss.
Crucial Tibbers, and that damage.
Well, when you start grouping up in a choke point like that, after you miss on the Def, the rockets are going to come through, the Gragas barrel's going to come through, and there's not a lot of hope right there.
Oh,
H2K wanted to make the pick, didn't make the pick, and then they lost the 5.
They're on a ward. Clearlove going in, another explosive cast. Kasing destroyed immediately. Clearlove held up a bit, big shockwave, but no follow-up. So EDG is going to be just fine. Ryu on the run again, going to try to teleport out. Not going to make it. Mako with a bloodthirsty kill. He licked him.
First kill of the game. Congratulations to Tom Kench. EDG in full control right now. They have the Baron buff. They've also picked up 2 kills, which means they can push this through very aggressively as long as they go catch the minion wave.
Yeah.
Without Azonias or anything like that, any armor whatsoever, I mean, with the Jinx already completing this Bloodthirster, really nothing going to stop Deft, especially since he has about a million ways not to die in these team fights. Tons of protection from Tom Kench, tons of protection from Lulu.
Yep.
Deft really running away with this one.
Oh, Baron letting them push down these turrets so easily. This is going to be a simple inhibitor, and this could be the game. EDG trying to secure their second place spot. They can do it with a win right here.
Jarden is still finishing off a turret, so they know they have some time before
They do.
he can get back.
And they're going to do some damage to these Nexus turrets. One goes down. H2K needs one last fight. Amazing Jay goes in under Ryu. Ryu gets evaporated. Lulex running for his life, and Odoamne can't participate. There it goes. And in the end, H2K says, do you have a win? And EDG says, go fish. That is it. EDG takes second place.
Wow. Well, EDG, surprising. Not their best day of League of Legends. We do expect more out of these guys, but they clutched it. They found a way to win. They play around Deft in this last game, and Deft delivers.
Ultimately, EDG is not punished, and they now have a week to prepare for the quarterfinals because this group is set SKT #1, EDG #2. They would have liked to finish higher, but with the way they were playing today, probably a little bit of relief that they're still advancing to the quarterfinals.
You know, it is. It was a pretty sloppy group stage in general for EDG, and for a team that people were expecting to really be a team that could go toe-to-toe with SK Telecom. They're going to need to bring a very, very different game to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, specifically, their early lane swapping game is by far their biggest issue. Because we could see once EDG kept the gold fairly paralleled in the mid game, they executed amazingly. Like, they just got this lead about 5 minutes ago, and then they ended the game. We knew their team composition was built for the team fighting phase, and the instant Deft got ahead, he could just kill anyone because there's no true frontline on H2K, and that is exactly why the game ended so quickly once they got the edge.
Yep. And for H2K, their journey to Worlds this year is over. And for any organization, for H2K especially, it's been a great ride. I mean, they did really well both seasons. They made it to Worlds in the end.
Yeah. I think
Third
H2K
place.
also did better than expected even in this group. I mean, they made it a lot closer than I thought they would.
Yeah.
Third place in both European LCS splits. Third place in this ridiculously tough group at Worlds. Basically, best perceived team out of China, even though it was the #2 seed, and the #1 seed and best team out of Korea. Really tall task, but they put up some pretty competitive games.
I mean, any team that gets picked into a group with SK Telecom and EDG, you just got to feel sorry for them at this point with where those teams are in League of Legends. But H2K, despite going out, really did make it competitive.
Also, most importantly, this is probably the only group I'm going to get right in my pick'em for the World Championship.
Me too. Yeah, I got nailed to
Congratulations
pick
to
them
like
there.
75% of people. This was like the most stoic group as far as predictions.
I bet there are a lot of people out there that actually had EDG in first for this group, which before World started was conceivably possible. Yeah. We didn't know EDG was going to be the way they are, but yeah, congratulations. Good job, guys. Pick'ems, correct.
Yeah, I did it.
I did it. Yay. Well, like 97% of us are eliminated from getting it all right already, so oh well, whatever.
No championship ribbon. Group A was a disaster. I picked Crew Tigers for
pickles.
first, COG for second.
Me too.
As did many
I was almost there. I had Coup, Flash Wolves, and then CLG, Pain. So I was nearly there.
Yeah, that is actually remarkably
It was close. Oh well.
You can see they're setting up the interview right down there.
That's right.
With
We can see
EDG.
that.
I wonder how they're going to be reacting to this because to me it is such an identifiable problem within their early game. And I don't know if it's actually fixable in a week because it's such a complex lane swapping game, and it definitely feels like they are far behind in that game. All the other teams that went over to boot camp in Korea with the North American and EU teams got to practice against that so frequently. And even though EDG was scrimming the same opponents, I think most of their practice was against other Chinese teams. It'll be interesting to see if they can adapt.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see what these guys have to say because, yeah, obviously a disappointing group stage. What do you think?
I think that EDG, so they pull out their ace composition to make sure they get through to quarterfinals. It's all built around Deft. That will be banned out in their quarterfinal match because that's how they've looked the strongest. So you're going to come in knowing that you're probably not going to get the Ultra Mega Protect the Jinx composition. You're not going to get the Lulu, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then where do they go from there? Because they haven't shown us much else.
It's true.
Well, that's a question that we'll hopefully have answered very soon. But I think they're going to probably be keeping a couple secrets.
Yeah, well, that's one thing we kind of expected coming into this group stage is how many secrets was EDG going to keep. They would have liked to hold on to the ace composition, but they had to burn it here because this game was on the line.
We'll see what they bring to the quarterfinals, and we'll see what they have to say in the interview. Now let's send it down to Shox for a word with EDG's victorious support.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, joined by Mako after EDG locking in their spot in the quarterfinals and beating out H2K. Let's first talk about this game that you guys really needed to win. How did you get the upper hand over H2K?
先让我们非常恭喜你这次战胜了H2K， 然后晋级了。然后我们先来讲一下你这盘是怎么获得的胜利，怎么获得的优势，然后把它转换成了一个胜利。
这一局的话，我们前期选择安妮跟那个蛤蟆的话，就是想要换线嘛，然后发育，然后打到中期的话，我们9桶、露露跟金克斯打团很强，所以前期就一直跟他们换线发育。 然后打团，我们比他们更胜一筹。
So they picked Jinx and Tom Cage comp to just farm the lane and try to get an early game advantage. So they just keep farming and farming, and once they get into a team fight stage where they excel at, which they excel at basically, and they were able to pull out ahead and finally take over the game.
Indeed, strong team fights in this game. Let's step away from this game. You guys, as EDG, are one of the favorites for this whole tournament, yet your early games today against SKT, H2K, and BKT have been lackluster. How much of a liability is that going into the rest of the tournament?
就是比赛开始之前呢，我们觉得 EDG 是这个组最强的一个队伍之一。但是通过今天的几场比赛，我们发现你们的前期的游戏处理的不太好。你觉得这个你们前期的弱势会对你们以后的比赛有什么影响吗？
应该影响挺大的，因为 我们前期换线处理的没有欧美队伍好嘛，然后所以今天就只能硬着头皮去对线，然后以后的话会把换线处理的更好，然后就会打得更好。
So actually, our week in the lane swap is actually pretty big, and so we are really trying to adapt to the new laning phase. But as for now, we're just trying to beat them in lane. So for the later matches, we'll try to improve on the lane swap, and hopefully we can get better.
That definitely is a working point for you guys. Just a couple of months ago, you triumphed over SKT at the mid-season invitational. How worrying is it for you that now in the group stage you weren't able to beat them yet, at least?
就在 MSI 的时候，你们战胜了 SKT， 但这次在小组赛中，你们目前还没有对他们取得过任何胜利。你觉得你们怎么面对这么个情况呢？你们怎么考虑这么个问题？
我觉得在小组赛遇到失败的话是可以接受的。 然后我们看到就是会看到自己的短处嘛，然后就会慢慢去改进。我们会在决赛战胜 SKT 的。
Alright, so I think it's okay for us to lose in the group stage. At least we can find out where our weaknesses are, how to improve, and I think we can beat them in the finals.
All right, well, we'll see if that happens. Thank you very much, and congratulations for making it to the quarterfinal, Mako and EDG. Although there are some questions that still need to be answered. Back over to you guys.
Thank you, Shock. Securing their second place seed into the bracket stage there, EDG. Avoiding that tiebreaker, very, very good by them. I want to start team comps. Specifically to you, Tabe, we saw the Malphite come through and this entirely protect the Jinx comp with the Tom Kench as well as the Lulu and the Gragas for the disengage. Thoughts on their pick ban phase this time around?
To be honest, I love the pick bans of EDG's this game because at first I suggest AJ to use Echo because we saw that he used it last game. But the thing is, I think Malphite is a really good pick. Why? Because we can see that he has a lot of support from his team this game. His team came over to top lane and helped him to destroy the second turret. And the second thing is, even he has a huge lead by Fiora of CS, he is making huge plays from his Malphite. For example, he forces the flash from Orianna, and after they have known that Orianna have flash CD, Kench ulted mid, and they're all in for Orianna. And the second thing is, I think, other than the Malphite pick, I think Deft is very good in picking Jinx, and he actually avoided laning against Kalista. This is a very crucial point because after we see they saw that they are in top lane, but he suddenly goes down to bot lane. He knows that he is no chance against Kalista in early game, and he bought Authorized Blade very early, and he just farm and farm. And it's very good.
Willing to concede that lane in order to make sure they don't match up in the 2v2. Coming over to you, Yamato, continuing somewhat on the picks and bans, I want to look specifically, though, at the Malphite and Fiora matchup, because I know you have a different opinion than Jat does as to who that benefits.
I reacted quite heavily on it simply because, like, in this game, as Tabe mentioned, there was a lot of lane swapping, and of course, Amazing J is going to fall behind on CS because of it. But the matchup against Fiora is pretty decent early game, but of course, Fiora scales better into the lane. But simply because Malphite has this opportunity to itemize armor, he's never going to get Doven. He's going to be fine always in this lane, and Malphite is something that is so good in team fights, and that is what EDG was aiming for in the end.
And I completely agree with that, and that's what I wanted to talk about. The Gragas Malphite pick, especially with how much farm they prioritize onto Gragas, means that they were always going to have double Frozen Heart earlier, which means Kalista is null and void in the mid game, and it is so hard to dive those two champions. The Gragas ult splits up the team as you go for a dive. It really mucks up Annie especially, and then you can never dive someone like Malphite. Good initiation is generally good anti-dive, and that is what EDG brought to this comp in spades. It was just so disruptive to be able to single out one target.
Now, it did take him a little bit to get to that point, though. What we did see in the early game was the prowess of the Western teams, the European and North American teams in the lane swap to pick up an early kill and build small advantages. But where did that all turn around? You got to look at Mako on support.
Yeah, you certainly do. Mako was just able to utilize Tahm Kench, move people around the map quickly with his ultimate in a couple of key team fights. And when you have this pressure, as you said, as soon as you burn a summoner spell, as soon as you take the turret, Mako can be anywhere and just pick up whatever he wants.
Yep, an easy kill picked up here on Ryu. This is the one that you were referencing, Tabe, just now. But as well, you know, throughout the game, this one too, to cut them off, just managing to separate H2K and put them into situations in which there is no good decision to make.
And once again, look at Hyanin. His only choices to attack in that team fight were Clear Love and then Amazing J. There is no way, as a Kalista who doesn't build crit, who had to go QSS, is going to be able to get out of these team fights by putting out the amount of damage that Def did, who was hitting a Fiora the whole time, who had double offensive items.
I'm just happy more teams are unclogging the frog because Tahm Kench is so powerful. I'm super happy to see more of it.
A very, very powerful champion, and to some degree is taking the place of Janna, being a beefier support that can still protect your AD carry and allowing Jinx to be played.
It's like the point you're making, I like it a lot, simply because melee champions tend to, like melee supports tend to be stronger in the early game, stronger in the early skirmishes, and that's where Tahm Kench shines, Alistar shines, and Braum shines, and that is the biggest reason why we see these melee supports coming in. They're just so tanky.
Yeah, they certainly are. And whilst, like, the last thing I want to hit on pick bans is we haven't seen a prevalence in Fiora, and I think this game shows why. In China, when they build Fiora, they go 40% cooldown reduction with 1 or 2 offensive items. If you're against a magic user, you go Black Cleaver. If you're against a lot of AD, which this team comp was because it was built around Def, you should go the Frozen Heart, because 40% cooldown reduction actually means your Q does a lot of damage, and a lot of people underestimate the Q damage and the sticking potential. I feel if Odoamne was a little bit tankier in this composition, had gone with the Frozen Heart, he would have given Deft a lot more headaches. You saw in a couple of those fights, he could get on Deft, but then was immediately blown up.
Now, Tabe, lastly, I want to come to you. EDG has made it through to the bracket stages, and they have some time to work on some of the issues. They've identified for themselves that their lane swap and some of their early game seems to be their weakness. Specifically, how should this team, with very limited time, attack fixing those problems?
As you said just now, their lane swapping problem is very important. I said that this game, Amazing J has many support from his team, but we have to remember that it is after his first death. EDG is executing very poorly about lane swapping, because we can see that Amazing J has died. Why? Because he tended to have, he wants to defend the turret, but he didn't know that he will die under 4-man dive. So I'll have to think maybe EDG's coach, Aaron, have to discussion with his teammates. Is it good for Amazing J to defend the first turret, or is it good to just go to lane with Jinx? Because Jinx is already avoiding to lane against Kalista, so let's farm together.
All right, well, we'll see if they can do just that. They've got some time, like we said. With that win, EDG have locked in second place in Group C and will advance with SK Telecom to the quarterfinals in London. So, gentlemen, looking at this group, we still have one more game to play today, but these top two teams were the ones we expected to go through. SKT looking in form as ever. EDG looking to struggle a little bit.
Well, to be honest, it kind of reminds me of MSI. EDG lost against SKT in the group stage and came back swinging and won the entire tournament, so I'm not too worried about EDG.
Yeah, I actually think that this tournament format is kind of strange for both SKT and EDG just because it's the amount of games they would normally play in 1 week. This is like 3 best-of-2s for EDG, so I'm expecting them in the best-of-5s to have the improvement that we're showing, but there certainly is weaknesses in their early game that they need to be able to capitalize on.
Best-of series are a whole nother animal, so different teams will have or find their strengths in that part of the tournament. There's just one game left to play out in Group C. When we come back, we'll see if Bangkok Titans can pull off an upset win over SKT. Our coverage of the 2015 World Championship continues in just a few minutes.
This is the last game everyone will remember of H2K from Worlds.
Yeah.
Make it count.
Hoip. 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 Here, Ryu's got a just slow. Not bad. Gets caught by those flame choppers. Comes in. Timbers does work. Ryu throws a shockwave, but it's too late. Comes in. Is he close enough? Amazing J caught up a little bit. They're going to jump onto Yarden right away here. Yarden flashes away. Doesn't get CC'd. Going to pull in.
Okay,看慢点，nice，nice，nice，build，
Needs one last fight. Amazing J goes in under Ryu. Ryu gets evaporated. Lulex running for his life. And Odoamne can't participate. And in the end, H2K says, you have a win. And EDG says, go fish.